Hi guys, how you doing? I just wanted to run through quickly all the calculator commands that we have for hypothesis tests or confidence intervals. So let's go through it. Okay, so let's do hypothesis tests first because that's what we were kind of that's what we're doing first, right? So a hypothesis test, what we have to do, we press stat, right? Now, if we're doing a hypothesis test for P, that would be a one sample Z test for P. One sample Z test for P. We would go to tests and we go to one proportion Z test, one prop Z test. There it is, okay? Now, right here, this P sub O, that's your null proportion. So if it's 0.6, you just put in 0.6. Then your sample proportion, your P hat, you put it right there. Let's say our sample proportion was 7/10. We put right here 7, and then right here 10. Now right here, if your alternate hypothesis is not equal to, you press that right here, not equal sign. If your alternate hypothesis is less than, you use that, and if it's greater than, you use this one. So if my null is 0.6 and I get a sample proportion of 7/10, likely you're going to, well, you will actually use greater than right here. So I'm going to select greater than in this case, or it might be not equal to. All right, and then you press calculate. There you go. Okay, and remember, what you have to put in is you have to put tech. And right here, so if I'm entering this as like an actual answer, let me show you real quick. Okay, just adding another page real quick here. So if I'm doing right here, so if I'm putting this in as my do step right here. So if I'm doing a do step right here, what I'd have to do is put tech. And you should have already put in your plan stage one. It's going to be one sample Z test for P, right? So you just need to put your Z score, 0.6455, it looks like. Your P value, which is 0.2593. And actually, that's all you need to put if you're doing for P. So this is right here again for a one sample Z test for P. Okay, that's all you have to. Now, it won't hurt to go and put your P hat and your N, but you don't have to. This is all you're required to for if you're doing a one sample Z test for P right there. Okay. Now, let's do a one sample T test for mu. That would be you're trying to do a hypothesis test for a mean. Okay, so let's go here. So we're doing a one sample T test for mu. Okay, so let's say that we had a null hypothesis of a mean that equals 13 and an alternative hypothesis of mean that is different from 13. And let's say we had a sample mean of 15.1 or something like that. Okay, so this is what we would do. All right, we go back here. We're going to go to stat, tests, and this is a T test. So we use that second one right there, T test. Now, we are just basing it all. We have the stat right here, X bar we already have. If we're doing it based off data, then we have to actually select data and we enter like we did, like I showed you in the previous example, we go and put everything in for L1 and you would go back here, right, and you would, you would select data. Okay, but that's not what we're doing here. We're doing stats. Let's select stats. No problem. Looks like my null mean is 13. My sample mean is 15.1. Oh, I forgot to put what a standard sample standard deviation is. Again, I'm just making this up, but let's say it's, let's make it 3. Okay, see what happens. So sample standard deviation will make us 3. And yeah, I guess I have to have an n value too. So let's say the n value is 10. That's fine. All right, no problem. Now we're going to do right here, our alternative is not equal to, so we select not equal to, and then calculate, and here it is. Now for the do step for this, what you have to write is do. We are going to write, we need to get the t-score, very important. You will lose credit if you don't have that, 2.21, looks like 36, all right, or if you just want to round to 2.214, that's fine. The p-value is the most important, that's 0.054. And right here, you also need the degrees of freedom. That's just going to be n minus 1. N, as you see, is 10. So 10 minus 1 is 9. This is all you have to have right here. Now, would it hurt to put the sample mean? No. All right, you can add that if you want to. All right, you can add everything. You can add the sample standard deviation if you want to also. Okay, but the only thing that's required is these three, and make sure that you write tech as well. Okay. All right, so that is, we just covered one sample z-test for p and one sample t-test for mu. Let's do confidence intervals now, okay? So let's take a look here. So let's do, now we're going to do a one sample z interval for p. We're going to do a confidence interval. Let's take a look here. Okay, so now right here on my calculator, once again, I'm going to go to stat. For all these tests, you go to stat. All right, so we're doing an interval right here. This is a one prop z int. I know it's confused because you have that selection for z interval there, but you don't want to select that. You want one prop z int. There it is. That's letter A. Okay. So let's make up some statistics right now. Let's say that my null is p equals 0.60. My alternative is p is greater than 0.60. We can have a sample proportion of 7/10. And obviously my n value is 10 right here. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so right here, so we have our sample is 7/10, good. Oh, and let's say it's a 95% confidence interval. Sorry, I forgot about that. All right. So we have 7/10 right here, and the confidence level is 0.95. Now, usually you don't have a null and alternative for confidence intervals. The only time you might is when we are doing those two-sided. So actually, now that I think about it, I won't include this right here. All right, so you would just be given this. This is all you actually need for the confidence interval. There we go. We press calculate, and there it is. Okay, so that tells me right there. So all I have to do for this is the easiest. You just say for the do step right here, you're just going to say tech, and you just have to literally write out the confidence interval 0.41. Let's see, if I round that, it would be 0.416, right? To 0.984. There we go. Okay, and that's all you need to write. All right, if you want to write the sample proportion and the n value, you can, although you probably already have that anyway. All right, that's probably given to you. All right, last one. Let's do a one sample t interval for mu. One sample t interval for mu. So this is this is going to be a confidence interval for the population mean, right? Or the true mean, we could say. So let's take a look here. We're going to go back to stat, and let's actually make up some statistics right here. So yeah, remember intervals are all based on your sample statistics, right? So we don't need a null and an alternative right here. So let's get the sample mean as 13.6. And sample standard deviation is 3, let's say. All right, so let's see. And let's say our n value is 50. Okay, let's do it. All right, so we're going to go here. This is just strictly t-test right here, the second one. All right. Now, if you did it based, once again, if you're doing it based on data, that means they give you a whole bunch of data values. You have to enter them in. You know, like we did before, there it is, and then you would just go, you know, L1, all that stuff. Now, we have it based on stats, though. We're just going to use this. All right, so, and I'm sorry, I went to the wrong one. It's not a t-test, my fault. It's a t-interval, my fault. There we go, t-interval. Okay, so we're going to do it based on stats, okay? So the null is 13.6. And this, by the way, make it a 95% confidence interval once again. It's the most common one. All right, sample standard deviation is 3. The n value, the sample size is 50, and it's a 95% confidence interval. There we go. Calculate. There it is. Okay, so that gives us for the do step here, all you would have to do is just say 12.747 up to 14.453. That is it. Okay, so yeah, for confidence intervals, they're much easier for the do step. All right, that's all you're required to put. If you want to put everything that's there just to be safe, if that's easy for you to remember, it will not hurt you. That's fine. But this is all that's actually required. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.